What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, ES, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's happening with the market moving forward as we have the FOMC minutes and more data coming out for tomorrow, not to mention some big earnings. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. Anyways, the question is what's happening with the markets. We had a very, very crazy day today as we saw some insane volatility. Looking at the very beginning of the day, the market started off with a nice little pump. Then we saw a very, very big reaction to the data that came out involving the jobs revisions. Once that came out, the market pumped. We saw SPY hit 562, then dump all the way down to the 558 area, then get bought back up again. And I was telling everyone to watch for volatility, maybe even a little dip as we approach the FOMC minutes. SPY did see a slight dip right here. This did happen for the first 2.5 hours of the day. We did dip. And then as the minutes came out, okay, the market got a nice bounce. The market started to rally. That's the reaction that came. And now the market's looking bullish. Now, yes, we are trying to push right now. And I do think there is more upside for the charts. And I want to just make it very, very clear that, yes, we could be approaching all time highs on SPY. But I want to warn everyone that you have to be very careful as we approach these levels. Now, just because we keep pumping, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to pump forever because we're going to be testing some very, very tough resistance. Now, I'm going to be looking to see if SPY could break 562. If that does break, we're going to go to the all-time high at 564, around that range. So if we break this level, then we could be pushing all the way up to 568, then 570 above that. But if we reject here, we're going to be looking for a big rug pull on SPY, and we're going to be retesting 556 and even lower levels. Now, what is more probable? It also depends on a lot of different pieces of news, Jerome Powell's speech, and things like that. So I want to focus on that first, but just note that resistance will be tough, and typically we don't just break through resistance that easily. It could be kind of difficult, so you want to be very careful, and there is that risk of a rejection. So I'll talk more about this in just a couple of minutes. Let's first talk about some very important data. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, August 22nd, 2024. Please note that 15 minutes after the market opens, we have the S&P Global Composite Manufacturing and Services PMI report. That's going to be very important for the markets. It's going to give us more insights on how manufacturing, services, and different sectors are looking for the economy. So expect some high volatility 15 minutes after market open for tomorrow. Then at 11 o'clock a.m., we have the Kansas Fed Composite and Manufacturing Index reports coming out. Might cause even more volatility, so watch for that very carefully. All of this is coming out leading up to Jerome Powell's speech on Friday, so there's going to be even more volatility for Friday, depending on what Jerome Powell says. So we have a lot of data coming out ahead of us, especially initial jobless claims in the morning, and then the manufacturing numbers and such 15 minutes after market open. So look for volatility tomorrow before market open because of initial jobless claims, and then 15 minutes after open once we get the manufacturing numbers. This is going to be very important, so get ready for all of that. The reason why the market pushes is because the FOMC minutes suggested that the Fed is once again very, very open to cutting in September. The majority of the Fed members did want to do this, and I think that this is very important for the markets right now. The market thinks there's a 100% chance we get a cut, a 36% chance we get a 50 basis point cut, and about a 64% chance we get a 25 basis point cut. Once again, the market's expecting a cut for September, and so far the FOMC minutes confirmed that's very, very likely, and the market loved that so far. That's why the market started to push a bit. Now, when it comes to other pieces of news, the fear and greed index is currently neutral. We're getting closer to greed as buyers are stepping in. Momentum is still at extreme greed now. We're once again are getting very close to all-time highs. And then the puts and call option ratio is continuing to drop. This is dropping right now on the 5-day average because we're still seeing buyers stepping in, and volatility is still neutral. The VIX is testing resistance at the 50 daily moving average. So the market still remains bullish, of course. And then when it comes to other factors, such as what we're seeing for earnings, tomorrow we have Peloton and then Ross and a few others. But for today, we had Target, Macy's, Zoom, and a few more. For Targets, just to be very quick, I did go over this in the morning, by the way, but just to be very honest, they did relatively well with earnings. They beat on EPS and revenue, and their guidance was pretty good as well. They had to raise their guidance. That's why Target was up. You guys can see the EPS and revenue right here. Not bad from them. Macy's did not do too well. They ended up beating on EPS but missing on revenue. So you guys can see revenue was a slight miss right here. And then they didn't have the best of sales projections. That's why the share price is down. Guidance was not very strong. And finally, for Zoom, Zoom did relatively decent. They beat on EPS and revenue, but then we saw lots of resilience in their business, and we're starting to see some growth projections that are still very strong. That's why the share price is up right now. For the fiscal 2025, we're looking at a pretty good guidance. They raised guidance, so not bad whatsoever. That's why the share price is up for Zoom. So a lot of these companies had decent earnings, some of them not so well, and that's why a lot of these share prices are up. So, anyways, that's it for all news about the markets. Let's focus on the charts. What do I think is going to happen? Well, don't forget we have quite a bit of data coming out tomorrow. Initial jobless claims in the manufacturing numbers 15 minutes after market open might cause some volatility, but from a technical standpoint, the market looks a little bit more bullish for now. That does not mean I'm a permabull. I'm just saying for now, if we might push a little bit higher, but you want to be very, very careful as we hit some tight resistance levels. So, what levels should you be watching for on SPY? It's very, very simple. Actually, it's not very difficult to play this. I'm going to show you exactly why that is. So, on SPY, we're approaching this resistance at 562. Notice how we kind of touched that today and rejected. So it's going to be a tough resistance. If we break this 562 area, I think we could be getting very close to that all-time high in the 564s. So if you want to short the market there, I wouldn't necessarily just jump in. I would wait for confirmation before doing anything. But you would want to set a stop at least a point above that just to be safe. If you were to swing this, you could even set a few points depending on your swing and how much risk tolerance you could take. If not, if we end up breaking 564 and we start pushing for 565 plus, we could be heading closer to 570. I want to make that very clear. Now, this is the all-time high right here, by the way, where this line is right here. So we'll see if we break out through this or not, but I presume what's going to happen is going into tomorrow, market may slowly build its momentum and start pushing for 562, maybe even breaking this, and we could even push close to the all-time high. Once SPY gets there, we will see if we get a big rejection or not. There is a decent sized probability we will get the rejection because the last time SPY hit that did trigger a big rejection, and also because of the fact that every time SPY has hit this resistance, whether it's the 562 to 564 area, we've been getting nonstop rejections multiple times. This happened for many, many weeks. So that makes me suspect there's a high probability of us getting that rejection, and it's a little bit more probable, but not a guarantee. And you always want to watch for confirmation just to be safe. So, once again, in essence, if SPY rejects, you want to be looking at 558 and 556 as key support. 562 is going to be our resistance alongside 564. We do favor pushing towards 562 and maybe trying to break that to go to the all-time high. But once we get there, you want to be very careful. There is a risk of us getting a big rejection, a pullback. We could be forming a cup and handle on SPY. So you want to be very mindful of that. This could be our giant cup and the handle could be forming. So be careful as we hit those all-time highs. I think we might get there, but then you want to be mindful of that. Nvidia has earnings next week, and we are looking like we want to push a little higher. We were looking kind of weak in the morning, but then we bounced thanks to the FOMC minutes. So I could see this push close to 130, but watch to see if we break that or not. If that does break, I'll be looking for 132, then 135. If we don't break the 130 to 132 area, we could reject and make our move back down to the mid 120s. So I think we might push a little bit higher towards 130, and then we might reject and make a move back down. That's the most likely possibility, but watch for confirmation just to be safe. How about ES? ES is looking more bullish. We're going to be approaching 5650 is our resistance. If that breaks, we're going to be pushing all the way up towards this imbalance, which will take us all the way up to about 5700. If we reject from that area, we could be looking for a move back down. My guts tells me we're going to break this and push to about 5680, then 5700. And then we might be looking for a rejection. That's going to be a strong possibility. So you want to be very careful as we approach resistance around 5700. Be careful on ES. For Bitcoin, we look a little bit more bullish, trying to hold above our 200 EMA. We got to hold above 60,800. As long as we hold above this, we could be looking for 62,000 plus and 62,800. If we don't hold above that, we'll be looking for a dip back down towards 59,500. My guts tells me that 62,500 is likely coming for a little bit more upside, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For other tickers like Tesla, Tesla's once again looking, in my opinion, more bullish as we're making higher highs and higher lows. And I think we're going to get a push tomorrow on Tesla, but watch and see if we're forming a cup and handle or not, and see if we can try to break this high. So, yes, I think Tesla might push for 225, but my concern is this high at 228. Can we break that? If we break this high at 228, Tesla will push to the 230s. 230 and 234 is likely coming. If we don't break the high, if we establish a lower high, if we push to 225 and reject, we could be coming right back down. So tomorrow, Tesla's going to be testing 225, see if we could break that or not. If we break that, we could be testing this high from a couple of days ago, and Tesla will remain more bullish. If we don't hold above 225, we could be looking for a rejection. Look for a push tomorrow morning and see what kind of reaction we get. If we reject, by the way, look at 222 and 220 as our supports. 220 is going to be critical. If we lose that, we could be dipping to 217. But my guts tells me we push tomorrow morning for 225, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For NQ, we look more bullish. We're approaching the 20,000 mark. That's going to be a tough resistance, guys. But if we break 20,000, I could be looking for 20,000, basically 20,160. That's going to be our resistance right over here. NQ could push towards that, so watch 20,000 as resistance. And if we lose 19,700, look for a dip back down to 19,500. I think the 20,000 area is coming a little bit above that, and we'll see if we get a rejection on NQ or not. There is a slight bearish divergence forming, so you want to be careful with that. So be very mindful of that. For the QQQ, we look a little bit more bullish. I think we could get very close to 485, so it might push a little bit more, but you want to be careful. If 485 breaks, our next target is going to be very close to about just under 490. And if we don't break past 485, look for a dip back down to about 480, then 476. This chart looks like it's going to push a little higher into the mid 480s tomorrow. So I favor the upside. I think we look more bullish. We could push a little bit higher temporarily, but we are forming a bearish divergence. So that suggests that we might push towards resistance all the way up here around that 485 area. And then once we hit that resistance, we could be looking for a possible rejection. So watch 485. If we do break above that, we could get close to 490. But like I said before, guys, we are at risk of a rejection looking at the current technicals. So be careful. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying to be very careful. For Apple, look at 227. If we break this, we're pushing up towards 228. If we lose 226, look for 225.02. Our 20 EMA may be a little bit above that's tomorrow, followed by 223.8. So we have very, very tight ranges on Apple. Apple is trying to rebound right here. The structure is more bullish, but just no resistance is very tough around that 227 area. So we'll see if Apple could break that. We have a bearish divergence forming. It is possible we push towards 227 again tomorrow, but then we'll see if we reject. It's a tough resistance we have not been able to crack thus far. So there is a risk of it kind of touching that, then rejecting. For Palantir, we dipped a little bit and then we got bought back up because of the FOMC minutes. So now we're in a very, very critical place. We're looking at 32.5 as our resistance, and we have key support right over here around 32 flat. So it's a very, very tight range that's kind of like developing right now on this chart. So we have this range. I think that there's a good chance that this range is going to remain where we consolidate for now. And then we'll see if we break higher. It is possible we push for just under 33 tomorrow. Then we'll see if you reject. But like I said before, guys, I'm not super bullish on this. I would be very careful with all the consolidation that's going on. So look for an attempt to get close to 33, then maybe a move back down towards 31.8 and some sideways price action. Supermicro is doing a good job at breaking out so far, but we have not been able to crack past resistance at 635. Tomorrow, I think that we're gonna be testing 635 to 640 for a little bit of a push. If we break that, we're going to be pushing even higher all the way up towards 650. If we reject off this area, we're going to be coming back down. So tomorrow, look for a push. I think we push a little bit higher. We get very close to 640. Then we'll see if we get a rejection or not. So watch for that push tomorrow. For Rivian, I'm not really liking the setup. I said this many times. We have a bearish looking setup so far. We're forming a nice bearish wedge. So this would favor downside in my personal opinion. And I think that there is a risk of us dipping. We got to break past 14.1 to turn back up. Otherwise, we're at risk of dipping to 12.5. It still looks more bearish to me. For SoFi, we're on a bit of a dip right now. We're kind of shuffling at this 7.3 area. Could this be forming like a cup and handle? It's still just very tight in this choppy area. We're trying to hold above the support I mark right here. If we lose that, we're going to be dipping back down to about 7.02. And if we hold this, we could be looking for 7.5. My guts tells me we're going to remain range bound for some time, and we're at risk of retesting our 20 EMA. So I think we might pop to about 7.4 and then maybe make a move back down towards 7.2 just for some consolidation. For the IWM Russell 2000, we look a little bit more bullish, forming a nice looking accumulation right here. We did dip a bit just to get bought back up thanks to the FOMC minutes. So I think we might fill this gap towards at least the 216 area. And we'll see if we get a rejection because this is some very, very tough support becoming resistance. So 216 to 217 is going to be a tough area. We'll see if we get a rejection on the IWM or not around that range. This range right here is going to be a tough resistance. If we break past 218, we're going to be looking for a big push into the 220s. If we reject off 216 to 217.68, we could be coming back down. Tomorrow we should push higher. Most likely we're going to be pushing for 217. Don't forget, all of this also depends on the data that comes out, but I think we might be pushing higher for that 216 to 217 area, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. For AMD, we're looking a little bit more bullish. I said this yesterday as well. It's holding up very, very well. I think we could get very close to this 160 area. Now, just notes that there was a time when we did reject off 164, and 160 is going to be a tough level. So I think that there's a good chance that this accumulation may continue, but we'll be watching to see what kind of reaction we get off 160. If we lose support and we reject off 160, look at support currently right here around this 155 area. If that breaks, we're dipping to 152. If we break past 158, we're looking for 160 to break. My guts tells me that 160 is likely coming. We'll see if you reject or not. We have this nice looking wick that's forming, so look at 160 to be tested. We'll see if you reject. So give that some time. For ARM is trading sideways within this range, in my personal opinion. We're just range bound, so it's very much just stuck for the time being. If we break 132.68, we're looking for a big push for 135. If we lose 128, look for a dip back down to 125. This has a possible head and shoulders like structure. It is looking a little bit weaker. So I think that this might attempt to push up, then maybe dip. And I do think we might be retesting the 128. So please be very careful. For Coinbase is looking a little bit more bullish to me. If we try pushing higher, we could be looking for this imbalance to fill around this 208 area. And if that breaks, the 208s break, I think we're going up to 212. If we end up losing 202, look for 200 and 190, the 196 range. Looking at this nice accumulation, I think we are favoring upside for the 210s. So Coinbase is looking a little bit more bullish in my opinion. But like I said before, watch resistance around 210 to 212, and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. But for now, we might push a little higher. Amazon's at a very, very key level. We're going to be watching tomorrow to see if we hold at 180. That's going to be our 200 EMA. If we hold above 180, we have potential to go up to this imbalance, taking us up to about 184. If we lose 180, we could be dipping back down to 177. So be very careful with Amazon. We're barely holding support. From a technical standpoint, we are above 180 right now. So as long as we hold this, we remain bullish. This chart does look like it wants to push a little bit more, but watch resistance at that 184 area and see if we get a rejection there if we do get the pump. So just like SPY, we could push to tight resistance. Then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. So be very mindful of that. On Meta, I'm a little concerned about the fact that one very tough resistance is coming up. 537, it's about 540 is kind of like a tough area. I think we look bullish right now. We might push for that 540 area. If that breaks, we're going up to the 540s, 542, and then 544 are coming. If we reject off 537, we could be dipping. We're forming a nice cup right now, so you want to be very mindful of that. So I presume we're going to be pushing close to 540 on Meta, and then we'll see if we get a rejection. So far, the head and shoulders like structure is failing, the one from yesterday, so this is favoring upside. So I think we're going to be looking for 540, and then we'll see if we break that or not. So look for a little push tomorrow. For other tickers out there, we have like Microsoft. Microsoft is once again, and it also in like another very, very critical place. We're going to be testing resistance at 425. If we break that, we're going up to 427. If we don't break this, we're going to be dipping to 420. I think 425 is coming. We'll see if we reject or not. It's going to be a tough resistance. So look for a little bit more upside. Google is just consolidating right now. We need to break past 170 to remain bullish. If we lose 168, we turn we're going to be looking for 166. So I think we're just stuck in a range for now. We might rebound to about 169, then come back down tomorrow. So that's all I'm really seeing. Nothing too crazy. GameStop is just consolidating. If we hold above 22.36, we could be looking for 22.5. Otherwise, we're just consolidating. AMC is just consolidating between 5.04 and 4.96, just stuck in the middle. DJT is also just trying to rebound finally. So we've been dipping. We came very close to my target of 20, only to rebound. Look at resistance at 24.64. If we hold above this, we could be looking for a big push all the way up towards 25.5. If you reject here, look for 23.15. We favor upside, so give this some time. The VIX is also looking more bullish. We'll have to see if we could break past 18. If we break 18, this could really start going. I think it might dip first and then maybe try to bounce again. That suggests that the market might try to push a little higher, and then we'll see what kind of reaction we get. The 10-year is dipping because of the fact that the Fed was a little bit more dovish, talking about cuts, and the dollar is also looking more bearish as the market remains bullish. So right now the charts are bullish. We are going to push higher most likely, in my opinion, and that's not going to be a surprise to me. What's going to be surprising is if we break the all-time high. We'll see if that happens or not. There is a risk of us getting a big rejection there, so you want to be very careful at 564, and we'll just have to watch just to be safe. So look for some more potential upside. We'll see if we get a big rejection or not. For now, the market is going to push higher, but we'll be watching this together to see if we get that rejection. I want to be 100% unbiased when I say that. The market is bullish for now, but watch resistance as we approach the all-time high on SPY, and we'll see if we get a big rejection. So please be very mindful of that. If it does come, then be prepared. If not, it is what it is. So be careful, and we'll see how things go. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you guys tomorrow before the market opens. Get ready for initial jobless claims, not to mention some more manufacturing numbers. And have a great day, night, or evening wherever you guys are. Thank you for listening, and peace out.